my most popular videos on this channel is one I did 3 years ago called 4 Things to Know About Working in the Library. And since I posted that video, I've gotten a few comments asking for my thoughts and opinions about getting a master's degree in library science. And up until recently, I couldn't really respond to those because I didn't really know much about it. But now, 3 years later, I'm almost halfway through my master's degree in library science. I started last August, so now I do have some experience with that and some thoughts. So today I'm doing a bit of a follow-up video to that last one with some things that I think you should know if you are considering pursuing a Master's of Library Science degree. Like my last library video, this one comes with the disclaimer that I only know about programs in the United States. I know things are fairly similar in Canada, but outside of those two countries, I don't really know anything about how their degrees and library programs work. Anyway, on to my first thing that you should know before pursuing a degree in library science. Before you go enrolling in a program and spending all of that money on getting a graduate degree, you definitely need to know what librarian work and librarian job prospects in your area are like. This is good advice for any graduate degree. You should definitely do your research first, but I think it's particularly important for librarianship and library degrees because I think a lot of people have misconceptions about what the work is like. It's not just reading, recommending, and shelving books. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to get a degree in it. Also, like I mentioned, graduate degrees can be expensive and you're probably going to end up taking out some student loans and getting into debt, and you don't want to owe all that money and spend all that money to end up in a career that you hate. I recommended this in my other library video and I'm going to recommend it again. If you are thinking about being a librarian and getting a master's degree in library science, I highly recommend that you first get an entry-level job at a library in your area, or at the very least volunteer at one, so that you can get a good idea of what it's actually like to work in a library. In addition to getting experience in a library, which will also be very valuable when you graduate and are looking for a job, you should also research librarian jobs in your area, find out what the average pay is like, how much experience you need for those positions, and just how common those positions are, because in some areas there aren't a lot of available open positions for librarians. Know whether you're willing to relocate to another city or another state once you graduate, because that will definitely increase your chances of being able to find a good job. Onward to the second thing you should know. So once you've decided that this is something you want to do, you're going to start researching programs. And it's important to know that there are a few different names that library programs can go under. The most common name in the US is going to be a Master's of Library and Information Science. So you'll see MLIS a lot, it's kind of the standard name. You'll occasionally also find some programs with older names, like just Masters of Library Science. But also recently there have been some programs, including the one that I'm currently in, that have been moving their focus more towards information studies. So you might find some programs that are called a Masters of Science in Information, that's what my degree is, or something like Masters of Information Studies. That's all going to still apply to library studies and library science. The most important thing, no matter what the school is calling their degree, is that the program needs to be accredited by ALA, the American Library Association. When you go through and research some library jobs in your area, you'll probably see that most of the librarian positions say that you must have an MLS or an MLIS from an ALA accredited program. Most libraries, public and academic, will not give you a job if you don't have an ALA accredited degree. Basically, it just means that the American Library Association has evaluated the program and its mandatory coursework, and that they feel that students in that program are learning the things that you need to learn in order to be a librarian. Number 3, you also need to know what it is that you specifically are looking for in your master's degree program. A lot of MLIS degrees these days are either fully or partially online, so even if there isn't a school that offers one in your area or in your state, there's still possibilities for you out there. But also, if being in person instead of online is really important to you and you prefer that style of learning, there are some options out there. You should also consider whether there's a specific focus or certificate that you want with your degree, because different schools are going to have different classes and different options for certificates and concentrations. For example, if your dream job is to work in an archive or special collection, I recommend that you look into some schools that have concentrations in that or specific degrees in archival work, because that is a very competitive area of information science and librarianship, so it's really hard to get into if you don't have a degree that specializes in that, and if you don't have some like internship or work or volunteer experience there, so keep that in mind. But if you just want to be a general librarian at a public or an academic institution, maybe you want to focus on youth services or reference work, most library programs are going to have the coursework that you need. Moving more into the coursework side of things, the fourth thing that you should know is that you will be doing a lot of reading and writing during your degree. I'm 3 semesters in and I have not taken a single test so far, not multiple choice or written or anything. It's all just been a lot of reading and discussion posts and papers. Each week for each of my classes, I usually have at least one chapter in a textbook, plus a few articles to go with it as well. I'm taking a graphic novels class right now, and I have to read an entire graphic novel every week. And some of these readings are long and dense and full of theory and concepts. I wish that I had taken a picture of my information organization textbook from last semester, but I had to return it because it was a rental. I wish I could show it to you though, because it was huge. It was like this thick. I think it was around 800 pages, and the chapters were so long. So just be aware of the amount of time and effort that you're going to have to put into a degree. It is a master's degree, so it's pretty advanced level work. You're having to do a lot of critical thinking in your papers, and there's some group work as well, so it takes up quite a bit of time. That being said, I do have a full-time job, plus this channel, plus my writing. I'm taking 2 classes at a time, 6 credits at a time, and I find it pretty manageable. And the final thing about your coursework that you should know, which kind of relates back to some misconceptions about librarianship, is that your classes are going to be more than just literature classes. Because being a librarian is about more than just reading and recommending books, although that is a part of it for some librarians, and if that's something you want to do, you do need to learn about reader's advisory. But you also need to learn about the organization of information and theories about how users retrieve that information and metadata. And library science degrees are pretty customizable, which is something I love about it. I have 4 required classes I have to take to kind of set a foundation for information professionals and librarianship, and then after that I get to take courses in different areas that I'm interested in that I think I might want to work in. I've had to take classes about information organization and management, but I've also gotten to take interesting things like graphic novels and government documents and indexing and cataloging. Now, if all of this has sounded interesting and doable and right up your alley, then I highly recommend you get a Master's of Library and Information Science, or whatever the school closest to you calls it. I've really loved these last 3 semesters in my degree. I feel like I have learned so much, and I still have another half of my program to learn even more. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I will try to answer whatever I can. Some things I might not have as much knowledge about, but I will do my best. And if you're also here because you are a writer or you're interested in writing, make sure to join us this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time for our live chat.